Hi, my name is Jana Waters, and I'm a certified Enneagram coach. Today, I'm going to be giving you a brief description of the numbers 4, 5, and 6 on the Enneagram. So we're going to start off today talking about the 4, who is called the romantic individualist or the individualist, depending upon what book you're looking in. And words that describe the romantic individualist or the individualist are creativity and depth. Their core fear is being inadequate, emotionally cut off, plain, mundane, defective or flawed, or being without significance. Their core desire is to be unique and special, authentic, inspired, original and true, expressive, creative, and emotionally deep. Their self-image is that they are authentic and find deep meaning in life. They're sensitive, intelligent, they're tasteful, they have a good sense of aesthetics, and they long for beauty. So the number 4s land in the heart triad, which is the feeling triad, the center of your body. And so their emotional struggle will be with shame, and they are longing for significance in their life. They can have an imbalance in their feelings in that they over-identify with their emotions when they're making decisions. Their passion or struggle or weakness is with envy, and this is related to the fact that they're always feeling like there's something missing in them, where the other people have something that they don't have. Like I've had one person describe what that missing piece looks like in their life, and it was motivation. They felt like everyone else has more motivation than they do. So there's going to be some attribute that they see in others or that causes them to have envy and feeling like they have a missing piece. The defense mechanism is called introjection, and they use introjection to neutralize external threats. And so they would consider a threat as like a criticism or a critique. And so if someone gives them a criticism or a critique, they will internalize it and in essence change it into as though they thought of it, that criticism or critique themselves. And this helps them to feel like they're protecting any external threats of other people giving more input. It's kind of like they can control the painful feeling that they get when they get criticized or have, any kind of input that isn't positive towards them. 4s are incredible empathic people. They are wonderful counselors. They're very, very comfortable going through all of the emotions on, like in an emotional chart, they're happy to go through all the happy emotions all the way down and go through all the sad emotions and depressed emotions. They enjoy being in that space with people. They're wonderful in times of need or crisis because they're not uncomfortable sitting in sadness with people. Let's see, their relationship pitfalls can occur when, and it also involves the feelings, where because they do have so many feelings and life is just, it's not that they have feelings, they experience themselves as they are their feelings. And so sometimes what can happen is in relationships, because there is so much emotional, so many things happening for them emotionally, sometimes there isn't enough space or enough value of the other people that they're in relationship for their experiences and their emotions. And so they can also be moody and temperamental, and sometimes they will idealize what a partner should be and how they want the partner to be, and then they are disappointed because it's hard to hold the tension of they're not who they thought they were or the idealized self thought they were. Their core longing is they really want to be seen and loved for exactly who they are, special and unique. And if you want to get along well with a 4, realize that they struggle with a great deal of shame due to that feeling that there is a missing piece in them. So giving them sincere, authentic compliments can really boost their soul. And please respect the fact that they have great intuition and that they do experience a lot of feelings, and give them the space, and don't try to push them out too quickly of describing, what they're experiencing in their feelings. That they need to be authentic at all times, and giving them the space to do that is a wonderful way to make them feel valued. Okay, the next number that we're going to go through today is called the investigative thinker, and that's the number 5. And a couple of words to describe a 5 are wisdom and truth. They love to learn stuff. Their core fear is annihilation, being arrogant, invaded, incapable, not existing, or having a lot of obligations put on them, and they are also fearful of being mentally drained. They desire to be capable and competent, informed, knowledgeable, concise, and perceptive. Their self-image is that they're intelligent, and they're private, and they're introspective and curious, and quiet. They fall into the thinking triad, and so they're going to have an emotional struggle with anxiety, and they're really longing for security. Their passion or weakness is the word avarice, and avarice can also be equated with greed. So it may be something that they struggle with, but it's a different kind of greed, not so much as accumulating more things, but sort of a struggle with a scarcity mentality. So it's a more of a preserving what they already have, not so much a gaining more things. So holding on to their resources so that they will feel secure, having what they need around them. Their defense mechanism can be isolation. When life starts to feel too overwhelming, they like to withdraw and to regroup. I've heard 5s described as like a cell phone, and most people probably start their day out with about 80% battery life. And it's been said that 5s probably start the day with 20% battery life. So it's not that they don't have energy, because they do. It just needs to be conserved. So they really like to make a plan for their day. And if that, then they can kind of disperse out and consider how much energy to put forth into each of the things that they're participating in the day, and not get overwhelmed by all the other people's emotions and things. Their core longing, I guess actually we'll go to relationship pitfalls. The pitfall for a 5 can be, they do have such a high need for solitude and to learn and to research, but they also love people. And so trying to find that balance between being isolated and pulling away and getting recharged, and also maintaining relationships. That's a balance that they kind of have to work through and find the right balance for themselves in their relationships. Their core longing is to hear that their needs are not a problem. If you want to get along well with a 5, this is some of the things that 5s say that they enjoy, is independent people. It's very exhausting to them if people are clingy. And they need time alone to be able to process their thoughts and feelings, and they really appreciate it when people respect that and not criticize the fact that they need some time alone. It has nothing to do with their love for you or their wanting to connect. It's just that they have a higher need than others to pull away and regroup. One little example of a 5 that I've heard before is that one of the things that would be really difficult for a 5 is if they've already allocated their energies for the day and they've engaged in all the things that they've needed to engage in, and then they come home from work, let's say, and find out, oh, now we have to go have dinner with the neighbors. That would not be an energizing thing at all to a 5. Like, they really like to have a plan and know ahead of time, like, what's coming, so that they can allocate the resources of their energies well. Okay, the next number is called the loyal guardian, and a couple of words that describe the loyal guardian are faithful and courageous. They fear itself, and being without support or guidance, being alone, blamed, targeted, or physically abandoned, unprepared or unprotected. They desire to have security, guidance, support, and to fit in and belong in a community. Their self-image is that they're community focused. They can be skeptical and like find all the holes in an argument until they find either a theory or a structure that they trust, and then they devote themselves fully to that. They're very loyal to the end. They're dedicated and they have a very strong sense of duty. They're courageous and they're passionate. They're great troubleshooters because they can see the holes in any argument because of their skepticism, and they have a great sense of humor. So they fall into the thinking triad, and so their emotional struggle can be with anxiety or fear, and their desire is security. Their passion or their weakness has to do with that anxiety and fear. They can have a tendency towards worst case scenario thinking and spend a lot of time worrying about and considering possible problems that could happen in the future. Their defense mechanism is projection, and how projection plays out in their life is they unconsciously attribute their own unwanted and unacceptable thoughts and feelings and motives, characteristics, and behaviors onto others around them. And it's hard for them to accept that these are their own issues and not to put them onto the other person. So the sixes love to rely on experts around them, and they have an inner committee inside of themselves, where when we were talking about the ones, we talked about how the ones have an inner critic. The sixes have an inner committee of people giving them advice, or voices giving them advice, or contradicting. They make a decision and then a contradictory thought can come in and be like, well, maybe not. So a lot of times it is difficult for sixes to make decisions because they'll be going in one direction and then all of a sudden they'll think of something else that counters that decision. And that is why a lot of times they will try to rely on other people or experts outside of themselves to help guide them and make a decision, which can be a positive thing, but also is part of their path of growth, is to learn to trust their own wisdom and their own truth inside of themselves. I've heard it said too before that it would be a great idea to bring a six with you on a trip, because they will have thought about anything that possibly could happen, and they may open their bag or their purse and have all of the supplies that you could possibly need, because they will have thought about all the things that could be happening on the trip. There's also a variation in this number, in the sense that they're called the phobic six, which is kind of your traditional six, the way you would consider a six, kind of struggling with fear and worst case scenario thinking. Or the opposite is called the counterphobic, and this six, instead of worst case scenario thinking, it's like they face the dangers head on in their life, and they can be a little edgy and outspoken and aggressive. And so this type of six can often be mistaken as an 8, or the commander on the Enneagram. But the way that you can discern whether you're an 8 or a counterphobic 6 is going back to that core fear and core desire. And also whether their emotional struggle is with anger, anxiety, or shame. And to discern if you're a counterphobic 6 versus an 8, if the 6 will still struggle with self-doubt and anxiety, and an 8 would not spend very much time at all thinking about self-doubt or anxiety. The relationship pitfalls that 6s can fall into is that sometimes they test the people in their lives around them to see if they're committed, predictable, if they change their mind easily. And because they do struggle with projection and putting their thoughts and feelings onto their partner and blaming them for things that aren't actually accurate for the partner. Their core longing is to know that they are safe. If you want to get along with a 6, it's best to be direct and clear when you're talking with them, and listen to them carefully to assure that everything will be okay in difficulty. And please do it sincerely, because they can tell the difference of someone just saying, oh, it's going to be fine, it's going to be fine. Or an actual, like, I've thought through this, and giving them a really secure, stable feeling about situations. So those are 4, 5, and 6. Thanks for listening.